Hello, I am Anton Rossouw in a creative multimedia project, and today I will be summarizing what I have done for my uh, fifth trimester for creative multimedia project. So let's begin. I have notes here as well to help me along, and I've chosen to be outside due to the nature of the brand that I chose, which is a motorbike touring company called Off Grid. And what makes this brand unique is that, unlike usual motorbike touring companies that use huge, big 650 bikes, we actually do the opposite, where instead we take the small B2 scooters, or the mopeds that's what they call them. We use those instead of the big off-road bikes because throughout my experience driving motorbikes, those small bikes have been able to do just as much as what those big bikes can do. With rising fuel prices these days, a smaller bike is actually more economical than just taking a gigantic fuel guzzler. Nothing wrong with big bikes though. And so starting off was phase one. And phase one, to summarize, was we had to analyze two companies that were similar to the one that we chose. And the ones I chose two companies. Okay, the first one was Motomaniac, and then the second was Nomad Adventures. Both pretty strong competitors. And what I liked about Nomad was the color choice that they used, which is using the orange instead of red, because red is a very intense color, while orange is still intense with a lot of energy, but it's not overpowering. It has that fun element to it. While Motomaniac, it has the very dynamic pose that I really wanted to incorporate in my logo. Our brand is aimed towards middle-aged adults that are relatively interested in motor sports, but not so experienced that they would prefer to use the bigger bikes. This is more intermediate, I would say, and we're looking for people that are energetic and wanting to go out and explore culture, not just and that's what our brand is trying to represent. After every tour, we will compile all of the photos and videos that would take place during that tour, and then post it on our social medias and use it in future advertising as well, to encourage community throughout everybody that has been or would be eventually on one of our tours. And I think, and one of the goals is to make the brand look trustworthy, because you're going on a motorbike trip. You have to have people that are confident, but it's not so serious. This is something that you do for fun. This is something that you do to explore and enjoy time with everybody. This is something to create stories that you share around the dinner table. And that's what I tried to aim with our logo design, which is a pretty brutalistic, very like vintage aesthetic of logo, while having a very dynamic pose, which having the off-grid text leading up while having the guy going on the top of it. And the secondary logo, I would say I need to improve on that, as my lecturer pointed out as well, because it looks very different to the original logo. But all of these assets, all of the logo is meant to be recycled into future media in the first place. And one of those future medias is the second phase, which was the brand identity. I chose a very big brutalist font for titles in Black Ops 1. It's a very serious sounding font, which is actually very contrasty to the secondary font, which is just used for information, called Glacial Indifference. And I find the contrast between the two fonts' names, as well as how they look, it summarizes the brand as well, where there is a degree of professionalism, but it's also great that there is that fun factor in the big Black Ops 1 poster, where It's supposed to be retro and it's supposed to be over the top. So the orange is used as a highlight to attract to really key information. This is shown especially on text documents such as letterheads and business cards and envelopes that we had to create. But when we got to the promotional material, that's where reusing assets really came in handy, because the secondary logo got to be used as the background for the bunting. And the bunting doesn't have as much information, because as I looked up, a lot of brands that use bunting, they don't really put their medias that much on their bunting. It's more for something to hang up and get people interested into what off-grid really is. The going up hills and coming down mountains is also an essential part of the brand, which is that it's, with every adventure, it starts off really small and then it comes back with such memories, so many things to talk about, that it makes it more than just an adventure. Once again, it's something to share around the dinner table. The poster that I created was actually inspired by old magazines from my dad's collection. Phrase on the poster was actually a joke that me and my friends had at the time called 100% optional. And so in the poster, that's why it says this was 100% optional, but worth it. The sketch itself of a motorbike driver flying off a cliff is inspired by an actual story, because I went on a lot of motorbike trips with my dad, and one trip, the brakes of my motorbike completely broke. As I was going down a hill, I had to drive all the way down without falling over. The Instagram post is an illustration because it would be posted next to photos from previous tours as well as videos. We're not going to sugarcoat it here. Tourism and tourists tend to stick out like a sore thumb when they go to a rural area, especially if those areas are not used to tourism. And that's what I kind of wanted to show in the drawing as well, showing the guy showing up with this motorbike while the locals are who are just buying produce is now looking on in complete confusion at this motorbike. The website poster, I didn't really have much to say about it. It was created pretty quickly because I reused quite a few assets from my previous works, with the poster, with the logo designs. But I think that it serves a purpose, because it's not meant to be the main big attraction. It's supposed to welcome people as they enter into the website, and then people can scroll and look at the services, which is the main part of it. The merchandise is also meant to be sold online or in the physical store. And I had a plan of being different shirts for different events, but I didn't really have so much time, and I do wish I did more. Moving on to phase 3, which is my second favorite assignment, apart from phase 4, which was my favorite. Phase 3 was campaign posters. And these 3 campaign posters I used to represent the 3 main aspects of an off-road motorbike trip, which is the planning, the adventure, and maintaining the motorbikes. I wanted them to make fun of classic promotional posters for office spaces. In my handy-dandy notebook, I wrote a few. Insightful board meetings. Although in the rain, it's better to use a tarp instead. Relaxing outdoor adventure. The outdoors would prefer if you don't fly off cliffs. The state-of-the-art workshops. The state being wet, muddy, and in the middle of nowhere. At the bottom of every poster, I made sure to include the Instagram as well as the website. That way people know when to connect, because this is a promotional poster. And the layout is supposed to mimic those old posters that you would have on magazine covers, the 4x4 magazine covers. Again, inspired by the one I got from my dad. I got to make 3 mascots that represent those 3 factors, which is planning, adventure, and maintaining. Because that's a big part of the whole experience. You know, you gotta plan ahead while also having fun, while also making sure things are safe and working along the way. And as the final one, there was a merch poster. Didn't really have much to say about that one. I just made that one in Canva using assets I had before, which help a lot. Designing with the expectation to use it again actually really helps in the long run. For phase 4, now that was an interesting thing entirely, because I found out that I could roughly animate on Photoshop. And so I figured, you know what? How about I just write a funny little script, ask my friend to help me voice it out, and use the most American hillbilly sounding song, literally titled Mud, from the movie The Barnyard. The one character asks the other, why are you using a small bike on this big adventure? And he says, why not use the small bike? Imagine it, just imagine it. And then it shows real life footage of me and my dad driving through the jungle. And then with that song playing, and then it cuts back to the current characters. The second one now, convinced. And he takes a sip of his coffee and he goes, sounds like a plan. And then the way the song ends, I'm so happy with it. Then the phase 5 was the honor, or I would say the watch. That one, I wanted to incorporate the motorbike driving part. And as a result, I figured the renewal of life theme would match it better. The original idea of the watch was to have the motorbike drive around in circles with the sun changing to a moon halfway through. But I opted instead to go for the square box design because I wanted to have the time displayed as a number. I had 4 designs. One was for the morning, where the motorbike is driving up. The second one is midday, so it's raining, and they're sitting under a tarp and fixing the bike. Which is, if you've been on off-road motorbike trips that get caught in the rain and you have to fix your bike, it's a pretty common thing to do. Evening, they'll be driving down with a nice sunset, and then nighttime, they're all panning around the lantern for the next adventure the next day, thus renewing the cycle. The assets were used in Photoshop, while the animation was done in Adobe After Effects, as well as the background, which is just a blurred image of the design that's on the watch. For the time as well, I used the official Honor Sans, which is a very creative name for your font. Well done. Design of the wrist on the watch was inspired by dirt cracks, like the cracking of dry dirt, and I wanted to get that rough, durable feel. I've always found Honor watches to look pretty fragile because it has the screen on the front, and so I wanted to make it look a lot more durable. So this is a watch that you could take outdoors for the trips that you're going to take them on. So I wanted to show that with the wrist and watch design. The final phase was the board print, which, to be fair again, I wouldn't say there's much on the creative side to point out. I wrote a little paragraph talking about the brand, like describing just the brand, putting the logo. The first 3 shows the main posters. The second one shows the honor design. The next one was the mobile app design, which was a bit tricky because Off-Grid as a brand wouldn't really have their own app because you can just book online also through your phone. But I figured why not give it a challenge? I'd say it turned out quite nice. Got to reuse a lot of assets. I think I could have improved the bar at the bottom though for the navigation. I think it could have matched the brand a little bit more. Maybe I could have drawn custom assets for that one, but I think for now it works. I think an app for Off-Grid would be very functional. And so they would just show where the tours are and then give news on what's happening with Off-Grid, like a new place opening up, a new event. Corporate identity, I used the business card. For the background of both the corporate identity and the merchandise items, I used an unused sketch from the poster designs that I wasn't able to use. So again, I got to reuse another asset that helped a lot. For the merchandise section, I also used paint splatters, orange paint splatters, because without them, it would be just greens and the whites, but it wouldn't have orange like the rest of the designs do. On its own, it stands out. Next to other works, it fits in. And overall, I'm happy with how the brand turned out. I can't imagine it becoming an official brand in the future if it were to be actually funded. Overall, this class was really fun. It was challenging, but I would consider it one of the classes I learned the most from. Thank you so much, and see you.